Good evening, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. I'm your host, Anil Gambatar. And for our top stories, 680 more COVID-19 cases were confirmed nationwide on Wednesday. Citizens abroad to vote for presidential election on May 30th and May 31st. Mongolia to develop cross-border area tourism. And for the news, stay tuned. The Ministry of Health reported that 680 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed nationwide in the past 24 hours and 2 more people have died.
As of today, 680 new cases were confirmed after taking tests from 7,831 people nationwide. 685 more patients have recovered, including 373 patients who were being treated at hospitals and 312 people who were being treated at home. Unfortunately, 2 women, both aged 74, died due to COVID-19 complications within the past 24 hours. Of today's new cases, all cases are of domestic transmission. 634 cases were confirmed in Ulaanbaatar and 46 were confirmed in the provinces. Among the 4,234 COVID-19 patients being treated at hospitals nationwide, 50.7% are showing mild symptoms of illness and 119 are in critical condition. Additionally, 1,860 patients are being treated at home. Yesterday, 63,300 people received vaccination. In Ulaanbaatar, 99% of target citizens have received the first dose of vaccine and 66.9% have received the second dose of vaccine, while in the rural provinces, 80.6% of the target citizens have received the first dose of vaccine and 22.5% have received the second dose of vaccine. Health officials advise people to not relax only after receiving the second dose of vaccine and keep taking precautionary measures as full immunity is expected to be gained at least 2 weeks after the second dose of vaccine.
In 2019, more than 577,000 tourists came to Mongolia and generated 1.6 trillion MNT in income. About 50% of all tourists came from Pointe Airport and the rest came through various land ports. Therefore, industry experts plan to attract 500,000 tourists a year by developing cross-border area tourism.
Tourists can travel to the border area for 2 to 3 days. It is possible to travel to beautiful places with nature sightseeing places like Хамрын-Хийд, Нүдэнгийн Хонхор, Эргэлгийн Зоо, and Бүрдэн Булаг.
We offer regular routes to tourists. Tourists coming to our country for cross-border tourism will enter through fixed ports. These tourists will travel along the road and return. This operation will be performed by an authorized company. In addition, a group of tourists with more than 5 people will have to follow regulations on how to pass through border crossings.
Russian citizens are able to travel to our country without a visa. Therefore, the number of Russian tourists is growing year by year. Tourists from China used to be issued visas on blue passports, but this practice was abolished in 2016. Many countries around the world are developing cross-border tourism and increasing their profits. Therefore, visa flexibility is the most important factor in the development of tourism in our country.
Most countries in the world have very flexible visa requirements. For example, in Thailand, citizens of 140 to 150 countries can travel without a visa, so there are no restrictions. In order to increase the flow of tourists, other countries have a free visa policy. Mongolia ranks 128 out of 140 countries in the world in terms of international openness and visa regulations. Our country is ranked almost 10th from last.
The World Tourism Organization has issued international recommendations for 14 activities, including airlines, hotels, travel events, and conferences. As tourists travel being fearful of contracting COVID-19 while traveling, experts advise to be well organized when organizing cross-border travel.
Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
According to the law on presidential elections, campaigning will last for 15 days and must end before midnight on June 8, 24 hours prior to election day. This year's campaign period is very short compared to those of previous election years. Voting will take place on June 9th from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Overseas voting will take place on May 30th to 31st, and on June 8th, early voting with sealed ballot boxes will be conducted. The three candidates will meet with voters in 21 provinces, 330 SUMs, and the 9 districts of Ulaanbaatar to present their campaign platforms. As the campaign period is relatively short, candidates will need to visit 2 to 3 provinces a day. The postage stamp for the 40th anniversary of the joint space flight of the USSR and the People's Republic of Mongolia was unveiled on Monday at the Institute of Astronomy and Geophysics of the Mongolian Academy of Sciences. The postage stamp depicting Soviet cosmonaut Zhenebekov and the cosmonaut of People's Republic of Mongolia Gorakhcha was introduced. During the unveiling of the postage stamp, Gorakhcha said, "Postage stamps are a valuable part of world history. In this sense, we now have a stamp representing Mongolia's space flight. I still have one of the 2 seals made for the occasion of the joint flight, which is priceless to me. When he signed the envelope for the Mongolian Stamp Museum, he sealed the envelope with his seal." The 45 to 33 mm stamp with the theme 40 Years of Joint Space Flight became the 1074th stamp issue of Mongol Post. 20,000 copies were issued, and the stamp was created by artist Battor. Mongolia's first stamp was issued in 1924. On March 22, 1981, Zhenebekov and Gorakhcha took off in space aboard the Soyuz 39 spacecraft and successfully returned to Earth on March 30th. This historic event made the People's Republic of Mongolia the 10th country in the world to fly a person into space, and Gorakhcha became the second person from Asia and 101st man to journey into space.
Now let's take a look at currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.